Castro indicted for murder. Trump crushes GOP rivals. Ebola surges in the Congo. And the SpaceX IPO bombshell. Greetings, humanity. Let's rock the news, starting with the most important story in the world today. Dateline Washington, D.C. and Miami. The United States Justice Department has unsealed criminal charges against 94-year-old former Cuban dictator Raúl Castro, holding him accountable for the 1996 shootdown of two unarmed civilian planes, killing 4 Americans. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche announced the indictment, charging Castro and several co-conspirators with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals, murder, and destruction of aircraft. The planes belong to the Miami-based Brothers to the Rescue, a humanitarian group searching for rafters who were fleeing the communist regime. President Trump called the move a very big moment for Cuban Americans and a long overdue stand for justice. America will not tolerate a rogue state with hostile operations just 90 miles from our shores, he said, while stressing no immediate military escalation is planned. Cuban exile communities in Miami and Tampa erupted in celebration, viewing the charges as historic recognition after decades of impunity. The 1996 attack occurred over international waters. Cuban MiG fighters downed the planes on direct orders from the regime's leadership. 3 of the 4 pilots were U.S. citizens. The 4th held residency. Families have waited 30 years for this accountability. Prosecutors say that evidence includes intercepted communications and defector testimony linking Castro directly to the decision. This action fits the administration's harder line on communist regimes. It comes amid broader efforts to counter threats near U.S. borders and support freedom-seeking populations, like in Los Angeles. Cuban Americans, a key voting bloc in Florida, have long pushed for such measures. Trump has signaled further policy announcements on Cuba, including possible tightening of sanctions, but emphasized the focus remains on justice rather than invasion. Critics in some media circles do what they do, and they downplay the charges as political theater. But victims' families and exile leaders hailed them as moral clarity. The indictment reinforces that U.S. citizens killed by hostile foreign actors will not be forgotten, even decades later. It also sends a message to other adversaries that past crimes can still face consequences. The Cuban state media condemned the move, of course, as aggression, while dissidents inside the island reportedly celebrated quietly. The case headlines ongoing challenges with communist holdouts in the Western Hemisphere, not as many as there were. With Cuba just miles from Florida shores, the administration views accountability as both moral duty and national security imperatives. Supporters see this as restoring deterrence and honoring those who risked everything to help Cuban refugees. As one Miami community leader put it today, we finally see that American blood was not spilled in vain. I'm Robert Gardner, using GROK each weekday to truthfully summarize the news, and I sometimes season it up with my opinions, you can always tell. We review a roundup of the most critical reports right after this. M.S. Gardner, that's my wife. She is also author of last year's prize-winning story, Wolf's Bane, a dark, serious, modern take on an old fairy tale a Southern Gothic story for adults, Wolf's Bane, available now at thecuriousauthor.com. All one word, thecuriousauthor.com. And now we grok the news headlines from around the world. Dateline? Well, this is throughout the USA. President Trump's endorsed candidates scored major victories in Tuesday's Republican primaries, ousting notorious Representative Thomas Massie in Kentucky and boosting Attorney General Ken Paxton in Texas for the Senate. Massie, often at odds with party leadership on foreign aid and spending and everything else, lost decisively to Trump-backed Navy SEAL veteran Ed Galbraith. These results underscore Trump's continued dominance in shaping the GOP ahead of the midterms, with voters rejecting perceived disloyalty. Dateline Kinshasa. A rapidly spreading Bundibugyo strain Ebola outbreak in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has sickened hundreds, with over 130 suspected deaths. The WHO declared it a public health emergency of international concern. Cases have appeared in Uganda via travelers. Conflict, poor infrastructure, and delayed responses have complicated containment, despite the low global risk. The DRC canceled its World Cup training camp. Dateline Hawthorne, California. SpaceX filed paperwork for a landmark stock market debut that could value the company in the hundreds of billions and potentially elevate Elon Musk to trillionaire status. The IPO reflects booming commercial space growth and investor appetite for innovative American tech leadership and global competition. This observer actually just spoke with his broker yesterday to be ready to buy in as soon as possible. Musk is building the infrastructure for the future, so I'll be investing in the present. Dateline Jerusalem. Far-right national, well, they call him far-right, National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir faces international condemnation after video showed him taunting handcuffed Gaza flotilla activists. Spain, Ireland, and others decried the treatment, while Israel defended security measures against unauthorized vessels. The incident risks public relations fallout amid broader regional tensions. The woke, anti-Semitic European leadership, especially in Ireland and Spain, well, they will just throw an international fit over some angry words in Israel, but say nothing of the atrocities in their own cities, from the Muslim invaders they invited to besiege their own people. Dateline Washington and Tehran. President Trump paused potential new strikes on Iran, that is still paused, while hinting at final stage talks. Tehran threatens to widen the conflict beyond the region and is asserting that they control the Strait of Hormuz. Diplomatic efforts continue, with Gulf allies urging restraint amid ship rerouting and energy market concerns. This observer will tell you this is not going to continue forever. Stay tuned. Dateline Washington, D.C. Former Massachusetts Congressman Barney Frank, a pioneering advocate for gay rights and an architect of major Wall Street so-called reforms, has died at age 86. His long career shaped Democratic policy on finance and social issues during some turbulent decades in American politics. This observer does not neglect to remember the Frank Dodd Banking Act that nearly destroyed the U.S. economy back in 2008, One also remembers the page boy scandal on the House floor back in the 20th century. Frank was no hero, politically or personally. Dateline Washington, D.C. Federal authorities charged a former prosecutor with stealing confidential documents related to Jack Smith's investigation of Trump. The case, revealed by Kash Patel, raises fresh questions about leaks and politicization, there's a word for you, inside the Justice Department. Dateline Tennessee. A man in the volunteer state was jailed, former police officer, jailed over a social media post joking about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Well, he won an $835,000 settlement. The case highlights growing legal pushback against perceived overreach on free speech and government responses to online expression. This observer thinks that these sorts of posts, taking glee in the assassination and persecution of Christians, are reprehensible, as are the people who post them. But there is no law against being a reprobate, and you can't jail someone just for being a jerk. Dateline Kiev. Ukraine continues deploying AI-powered interceptors and advanced systems to counter Russian and drone threats, while NATO countries are reporting stray Ukrainian drones in European airspace. Russian jets also intercepted a British RAF plane in a serious incident in the sky. Well, there are so few jets left in the Royal Air Force. Maybe the Russian pilots just wanted a closer look at the Curiosity. Dateline Seoul. Samsung workers called off a planned strike after securing talks on massive AI-related bonuses for some employees. The agreement comes amid intense global competition in semiconductors and artificial intelligence technology. Dateline Sydney, Australia. The platform X was fined hundreds of thousands of dollars by Australian authorities for failing to fully comply with their new child protection laws. The penalty underscores ongoing regulatory battles between governments and major social media companies. This observer saw a repost from Elon Musk just this morning, laughing that the news of the fine simply made X the top news platform down under, just like in Europe when they tried to fine him there. This observer certainly wants children protected online as well as off, but knows that woke Marxist governments always use and abuse such laws instead. Perhaps parents will start observing what their children do and maybe not buying them the cell phones in the first place. Dateline New Delhi. A viral cockroach satire movement mocking political elites has attracted millions of followers on social media in the world's largest democracy. The protest phenomenon reflects deep public frustration with government, and it's fueling widespread online political commentary. This observer looked into India's satirical Cockroach People's Party and had to laugh at the AI photos of cockroaches in suits behind teleprompters. Well, they're not just in India. Dateline, this is a global one. NVIDIA posted strong earnings that beat expectations, reinforcing AI sector momentum despite broader market questions. The results highlight technology's resilience amid geopolitical and economic uncertainties. This observer just yesterday had his broker place funds into NVIDIA, while waiting for SpaceX. Dateline Washington, D.C. Thousands gathered on the National Mall for a Trump-backed Rededicate 250 prayer event, marking America's approaching 250th anniversary with renewed calls for faith and national unity. I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.